Okay, so I may have lied, and I'm here again, filming another video. However, I thought maybe I could just film a video in advance, and that way I can upload it tomorrow, even though I'll be moving most of the day. Also, I realized it had just been by chance that when I was doing these 10-minute casual games, I was getting people at 1500 or below, because only when it's a rated game can I actually select the rating range. So I had to go back to a rated game, even though I would prefer probably to be doing these unrated games. And so perhaps I'll pause the video until we have someone else, we match with someone, and then I'll pick right back up. Alright, so we got Granadero, a 1479 player, and let's go ahead and switch it up with c5. See how the Sicilian works for us. And immediately they're playing this move. So in response to that, I'm going to try and bring it into like a French style, where after their next move I'll play d5, and if they capture en passant, I'll recapture with my bishop, probably. They might support this pawn with a move like f4 or even d4. So now we have a French defense. And French defense is typically denoted by white pawns on d4, e5, black pawns on e6, e5. While I'm no expert at any opening, I'm certainly not an expert on the French defense, especially. So let's think, what is the idea behind playing this queen g4 move? Well, I wouldn't say it's so much to defend the pawn on d4, because when the queen was on its home square, it was already doing that. So what's the only other reason? Well, from what I can see is it does allow bishop g5. Also, it hits at this pawn, so if my bishop does move, I can't, let's say, just immediately capture the pawn. But let's try and show the queen, or white at least, that moving the queen is going to be a waste of time, because now after I capture it, the queen will be obliged to recapture, and so I'm kind of going to be getting a developing move in, especially with my knight coming to c6. So it seems that already black might be the one that's calling the shots, and by and large, it's advisable to avoid moving your queen from the outset. So I just want to develop my pieces. I am in a bit of a predicament about how to develop with that queen being there. I'm considering this is a bit of a weird move, so I'm thinking about weird responses. I'm just toying around with ideas like knight a6, although I might not play that, or knight e7 to g6. This move kind of leaves a little bit to be desired tactically, so take a second and see why this move is a bad move. Well, the reason that this is a bad move is that I can now play queen a5 check, and however white wants to defend, I can then either take the bishop, or let's say they, for whatever reason, put a knight there, I can then take that knight in response. So when I had posted this kind of proposal to Reddit, one of the comments that someone wrote that kind of stuck with me, it was a bit, maybe it's not cynical, maybe sarcastic, and they say, oh, you'll pretty much be telling these people blunder, practice tactics. And of course, there is a small bit of truth to that. That at a lower rating, players are more prone to tactical oversights. And so working on tactics is probably one of the best ways to progress. Now, I really want to come with tempo and hit, but I am still concerned about the queen just moving right back. So let's either try and develop the knight here or here. If they play knight there, I might go pawn grabbing on b2, and then after they play rook b1, I could consider capturing the pawn on a2 or c3 or c2. But it does feel a little bit scary to just outright neglect my development. However, I am a piece up. So conversely, if I play here, they might just castle. And then I'm really far behind in development. So I think since I'm ahead in development, not ahead in development of material, I'll just try and move my queen out of the way, develop myself, and then consider more attacking prospects. I played queen a6 because it does prevent white from castling queenside at least. Probably this was slightly more precise, because now that does invite bishop g5 check. Now that we have a kind of queenless middle game going towards the end game, I think I don't think I'm going to be outright checkmated, so even if I'm a little bit behind in development, it won't be the end of the world for me. Note that black cannot play d4 here, relying on the knight to guard it, because if I play a6, it's going to have to vacate the b5 square, and then I can simply recapture. Alright, so let's first get white out of my territory. Then I want to capture this pawn, and I'll be threatening that pawn at the same time. So what ought white to do in this type of position? They're down a piece. So for them, simplifying would mean that they're going to lose. So they need to play dynamically, they need to avoid trades, and they ought not to play in this fashion. So I'm going to capture the pawn, the knight. So a captures knight on b5, pawn captures pawn on b5, rook captures a1. Then they have this in between. Pawn captures knight with check, and finally they would recapture with the rook. Unfortunately for them, I don't have to take that knight immediately. I can grab this pawn. And now, here is a tactic, which, let's see. I see that black can win at least a pawn, so take a second, see if you can see that. I realize that sometimes when I find a tactic, I'm like hovering over the pawn or piece that ought to be doing something. But the point is, if pawn takes knight, rook certainly cannot capture here, as I can simply recapture or capture the pawn there, and I'll be up a pawn in that exchange. And here was the other course of events I was considering, that now they're just losing a piece, because once I capture the rook on a1, they'll need to recapture. Also notice how white has a dark squared bishop, but the vast majority of my pawns are on light colored squares, so there aren't any targets for white to go after. Let's just try and continue trading down. Of course, I can win this pawn here, but my task will be made easier by trading down. If they play rook a3, I'll capture, knight captures b2, and then after the rook check, the knight back there. But now I can just capture that pawn. Rook gives check, king captures b6, and then if the rook goes back, I can just move my king up one. While we're waiting for my opponent to make a move, I will take a moment to say that when I posted online about making videos, I did receive quite a charitable amount of criticism, saying that perhaps I wasn't at an appropriate rating to be giving advice on how to play. And to an extent, that's true. But I do feel that I've learned a lot just from playing these games and then looking at the analysis afterwards. Or not even just looking at the analysis afterwards, but when I'm talking through, I'm realizing like all the nuances of the position, and then when I look at the analysis afterwards using an engine, I see a lot of what I overlooked. And so it's kind of this investment into providing commentary makes me more invested in each game, and I think I'm starting to take away kind of some truth about maybe my weaknesses as well as my strengths in playing chess, even though I'm playing these kind of quote-unquote weaker players. So I played my king here because I really want to be able to move my bishop out and get this rook involved. Alright. Now, let's just keep the king from getting too excited. This kind of creates a little wall. And now I have a way of getting my bishop out and more active. And now we're very close to having a mating net. This bishop move pins the pawn because the rook behind it. This looks like it will be the conclusion of the game. I want to say thank you all for tuning in, and I hope life is going great for you all.